His body pressed against mine, harder than I expected, his breath hot against my ear, his hand refusing to let go. I whispered, "Stop," but my voice betrayed me, trembling between fear and craving. His chest rose with a hunger I couldn't ignore, and in that terrifying, beautiful second, I realized I didn't really want him to stop. I never expected that summer to feel like this. The air was thick with heat, the kind that clung to your skin and made every touch sharper, heavier. I had just come back from college, ready for quiet nights and simple mornings, but instead, I found myself tangled in something far more dangerous. Something that started out harmless but grew with every glance, every unspoken word. He wasn't supposed to be here. Ethan, my best friend's older brother. He'd returned home from the city, saying he needed space, a break, time to figure things out. He carried himself differently now, broader shoulders, sharper jawline, and an energy that made everyone in the room notice when he entered. And when his eyes landed on me, I noticed too. At first, it was small things. Sitting too close on the couch, his knee brushing mine as if by accident. His hand brushing my back when he walked past, lingering just a little too long. His laugh echoing in my chest, making me feel lighter than I wanted to admit. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself don't read into it. But deep down, I already was. Nights in that house became unbearable. My room was just down the hall from his, and I could hear the creak of his floorboards when he paced, the sound of his door opening at odd hours. More than once, I caught myself holding my breath, waiting, half terrified, half desperate, that he might knock on mine. One evening, it almost happened. We were alone in the living room. The storm outside cut the power, leaving the house drenched in shadows and thunder. He lit a candle, set it on the coffee table, and for a moment, we just sat in silence. His eyes flickered with the flame, and he leaned back, watching me too intently. "You're different now," he said finally. The words lodged in my throat. "Different how?" He smirked, slow and knowing. "Older. Stronger. You're not the same kid I remember." I swallowed hard, shifting in my seat. His gaze burned, and I could feel heat crawling up my neck. I wanted to say something clever, something to break the tension, but all I managed was a shaky laugh. The silence returned, heavier this time. I thought of leaving the room, of excusing myself, but my body betrayed me. I stayed, rooted in place, drawn to him like gravity. His arm stretched across the back of the couch, so close I could feel the warmth radiating off him. My chest tightened. My hands fidgeted. And then, without warning, the candle flickered out, leaving us in near darkness. I froze, my pulse hammering in my ears. I could feel him move closer, the brush of his shoulder against mine, deliberate this time. The air thickened. My mind screamed, "Get up, leave, don't do this," but my body leaned toward him, just slightly, just enough. That night, nothing happened. Not really. But it felt like it almost did. And almost was dangerous. From then on, everything changed. At breakfast, when our hands brushed reaching for the same mug, he didn't pull away. Instead, his fingers curled around mine for a second too long, eyes steady, daring me to react. I couldn't breathe. My best friend sat right there, oblivious, but I knew, he knew too. In the evenings, when we sat on the porch watching the sky fade from gold to blue, his shoulder pressed against mine, not by accident this time. He didn't speak much during those moments, but he didn't have to. The silence between us buzzed, alive with everything we weren't saying. It was unbearable. Because every time I told myself I could resist, that I could draw the line, he pushed it further. And every time he did, I let him. One night, I caught him looking at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. His jaw was tight, his lips pressed together, his eyes dark and unreadable. The look made my stomach flip, made me wonder if he was fighting the same war I was. I should have been afraid. And I was. Afraid of what it meant. Afraid of being caught. Afraid of admitting that the fire in my chest wasn't just fear, it was want. But underneath it all, a truth was blooming, slow and unstoppable, something was going to happen. And when it did, neither of us would come out the same. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling, my mind replaying every glance, every touch, every unspoken word. My body ached with confusion and anticipation, with dread and desire, tangled so tightly I couldn't separate one from the other. I whispered into the dark, words I didn't dare let him hear. "I don't know how much longer I can fight this." The ceiling didn't answer, but deep inside, I already knew. This wasn't the beginning of something I could control. This was the start of something that would consume me whole. And even though I told myself I'd resist, I also knew one thing for sure. The first time he touched me for real, I wouldn't stop him. The next morning should have been ordinary. I should have woken up, brushed my teeth, eaten breakfast, and pretended the stormy night before hadn't shifted something invisible between us. But the moment I stepped into the kitchen and saw him leaning against the counter, coffee mug in hand, that illusion shattered. His eyes lifted to mine, slow and deliberate, and I felt it, like the room had tilted, like I'd lost my footing before I'd even said a word. "Sleep okay?" he asked, voice low, casual, but with an edge that scraped against my chest. "Yeah," I lied, pouring myself some coffee just to have something to do with my hands. The silence stretched, thicker than the steam rising from my mug. He didn't move, didn't look away. And in that stillness, I realized I wasn't the only one pretending. Every time I caught him staring, every time his laugh came a little too easy around me, every time his hand brushed against mine, it wasn't random. It wasn't meaningless. He felt it too. That knowledge should have terrified me. And it did. But it also made my pulse race in a way I couldn't ignore. The day stretched out lazily, the heat pressing down until the house felt like it was holding its breath. My best friend had gone out to run errands, leaving just the two of us behind. I tried to bury myself in a book, but every word blurred together, my mind tugged toward the sound of his footsteps moving through the house. At one point, he passed through the living room where I sat, a towel draped around his neck, his hair damp from the shower. The scent of his soap followed him, sharp and clean, making my throat tighten. He didn't even glance my way, but his presence filled the space like a storm cloud ready to break. When he came back, he paused in the doorway. "What are you reading?" I held up the cover without meeting his eyes. "Any good?" I shrugged, though my pulse was hammering. "It's fine." He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, studying me. "You look like you're pretending to read." Heat flared in my cheeks. "And you look like you're pretending not to stare." The words slipped out before I could stop them. My heart lurched as soon as they hung in the air. His smirk was slow, dangerous, the kind that curled at the edges of his mouth and told me I'd stepped into something I couldn't step out of. "You're sharper than I remember," he said softly. "And you're bolder," I shot back, though my voice shook. For a moment, neither of us moved. The hum of the ceiling fan, the distant cicadas outside, it all blurred. The world shrank until it was just him and me, suspended in that fragile thread of tension. Then, footsteps on the porch. My best friend returning. Ethan pushed off the doorframe, his expression snapping back to neutral so fast it made me dizzy. I quickly lowered my gaze to the book in my lap, heart thundering. By the time the door swung open and laughter filled the room, it was as though nothing had happened. Almost. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the sliver of light under my door, listening to faint sounds from the hallway. A door creaked, soft footsteps padded past, and then silence again. My breath caught. Every nerve in my body screamed with the possibility that it might be his footsteps stopping at my door. But they didn't. And somehow, that was worse. The next day, the heat broke. Rain fell in sheets, heavy and relentless, turning the backyard into a blur of green and gray. We were stuck inside, just the three of us, but somehow Ethan and I kept finding moments, small, fleeting cracks in the ordinary, where the world seemed to tilt. Like when we reached for the same glass in the cabinet and his hand wrapped around mine before either of us pulled away. His thumb brushed across my skin, deliberate, slow. My breath hitched. My best friend's voice called from the other room, and just like that, Ethan let go, but the ghost of his touch lingered, burning. Or when the three of us watched a movie on the couch, and he stretched out beside me, his thigh pressing against mine beneath the blanket. My best friend fell asleep halfway through, head tilted back, soft snores filling the room. But Ethan stayed awake, his gaze occasionally flicking toward me. I didn't dare look at him directly, but I could feel it, feel him watching. The tension was a living thing now, pulsing between us, daring us to act, daring us to break. Late that night, when the house had gone quiet, I slipped into the kitchen for water. The storm outside rattled the windows, thunder rolling low. I turned on the dim light over the sink, pouring a glass, when I sensed it, him. I turned, and there he was. Leaning in the doorway, arms crossed, his eyes locked on me like he'd been waiting. For a moment, we just stared at each other. "You can't keep looking at me like that," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the storm. He tilted his head, his expression unreadable. "Like what?" "Like you," my throat closed up. "Like you want something you shouldn't." He pushed off the doorway, closing the distance between us. My breath caught as he stopped just inches away, the heat of him radiating against me. "Maybe I do," he said softly. The air cracked between us, heavier than the thunder outside. My pulse raced, my fingers tightening around the glass. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. His hand lifted, brushing lightly against my arm, and my body trembled under the ghost of his touch. Then, footsteps upstairs creaked, breaking the moment like glass shattering. We both froze, listening, hearts pounding. After a beat, he stepped back, his jaw tight. "Good night," he muttered, retreating into the shadows before I could respond. I stood there, glass shaking in my hands, trying to breathe, trying to convince myself this tension wasn't real, that it wasn't going to swallow me whole. But deep down, I already knew. This wasn't just going to disappear. Something was coming. Something inevitable. And I wasn't sure if I was ready, or if I even wanted to be. The rain didn't let up for days. It soaked the earth, filled the air with damp heaviness, and trapped us inside the house like moths circling the same dim light. For most people, that kind of weather meant boredom. For me, it meant danger. Because every hour spent inside with him was another hour I had to pretend I wasn't falling apart under his gaze. My best friend seemed oblivious, lost in video games and late-night phone calls with his girlfriend. That left Ethan and me circling each other, two magnets drawn closer despite every warning in my head. It started with small things. I walked into the laundry room one afternoon to grab a shirt from the dryer. He was already there, folding his clothes. Our eyes met, and neither of us moved. The hum of the dryer filled the silence until he finally stepped aside, giving me room. I reached past him, brushing his arm by accident, or maybe not. He didn't pull away. "Thanks," I mumbled, clutching the shirt to my chest. His gaze lingered, heavy, before he finally nodded. "Anytime." I escaped quickly, but the memory of his closeness stayed with me for hours. Another day, the storm knocked out the internet. My best friend groaned, frustrated, and spent the afternoon sulking in his room. Ethan found me in the living room, flipping through channels on the old TV that barely worked. "Guess we're stuck with each other," he said, smirking as he dropped onto the couch beside me. I rolled my eyes, but my heart wasn't steady. "You say that like it's a bad thing." He looked at me then, really looked. "It's not." The weight of his words hung between us. I turned back to the flickering screen, pretending I hadn't heard the undertone in his voice. But I had. I felt it in my chest, in the way my fingers twitched against my knee, in the way my breath caught when his shoulder brushed mine. That night, sleep refused to come. The storm had quieted, leaving only the occasional drip of rain from the eaves. The house was too silent, my thoughts too loud. I tossed and turned until finally, I gave up. Slipping out of bed, I padded down the hall toward the kitchen for a glass of water. I wasn't surprised to find him there. Ethan stood by the counter, a bottle of water in his hand, his hair messy from sleep. He looked up when I entered, his eyes dark in the dim light. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. I shook my head. "You?" He shrugged. "Same." We stood there for a moment, the silence stretching, neither of us moving. Then he pushed the bottle toward me. "Want some?" I hesitated, then took it, our fingers brushing. The spark was immediate, undeniable. My pulse spiked, and I quickly pulled the bottle to my lips, taking a sip just to cover the tremor in my hands. When I handed it back, his fingers grazed mine again, longer this time, deliberate. My chest tightened. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words tangled in my throat. Instead, I turned toward the window, staring out at the slick reflection of the moon on the wet grass. "It feels like the world's holding its breath," I whispered, not sure why I said it out loud. When I glanced back, his eyes were still on me. "Maybe it is," he said softly. I froze under his gaze. He looked like he wanted to close the distance between us. And maybe, for the first time, I wanted him to. But then a creak echoed from upstairs, my best friend shifting in his sleep, and the moment shattered like glass. Ethan stepped back, his jaw tight. "Good night," he muttered, disappearing down the hall before I could answer. I stood there, gripping the counter, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might wake the whole house. The next morning, everything felt too normal. My best friend joked at breakfast, Ethan kept his face unreadable, and I pretended nothing had happened in that kitchen. But inside, I was unraveling. Because I couldn't ignore it anymore. The tension wasn't in my head. The pull between us wasn't my imagination. Every glance, every touch, every silence screamed that something inevitable was building, waiting for the moment it would finally break. And I knew, when it did, there would be no going back. It happened again later that week. The rain finally stopped, and the air turned humid, heavy with the scent of wet earth. My best friend dragged me outside to help with chores, leaving Ethan behind. But as the sun set and the sky turned pink, my friend left to run an errand, leaving me alone on the porch. Ethan joined me minutes later, leaning against the railing. "Quiet out here," he said, his voice low, almost cautious. I nodded, hugging my arms to my chest. The air buzzed with crickets, but between us, the silence was louder. "You've been avoiding me," he said finally. My breath caught. "No, I haven't." "Yes, you have." His tone wasn't accusing, just certain. "Why?" I turned to look at him, the fading light painting his face in shadows. "Because," my throat tightened. "Because I don't know what this is." His jaw clenched, his eyes dark. "You know exactly what this is." My chest burned, my pulse hammering in my ears. I wanted to deny it, to laugh it off, but I couldn't. Not with him standing so close, not with his eyes pulling the truth out of me. "I can't," I whispered. He stepped closer, his voice barely above a breath. Can't or won't. The porch light flickered on, breaking the spell. I flinched, stepping back, and he let out a frustrated sigh, running a hand through his hair. The distance between us was thick with everything unsaid, everything we were too afraid to touch. But I knew then, without a doubt, the line had already been crossed. It was only a matter of time before one of us shattered it completely. That night, lying awake again, I whispered into the dark. I can't fight this anymore. And for the first time, I didn't know if I wanted to. The air between us had grown sharp. Every glance lingered too long, every brush of his hand felt deliberate. It wasn't just tension anymore, it was pressure. Like something trapped beneath the surface, threatening to break wide open if either of us made the wrong move. And one night, we did. It was late again. My best friend had fallen asleep on the couch after a long day, his headphones still around his neck, the TV buzzing with static. I slipped into the kitchen for water, trying not to wake him. The house was quiet, but my chest was restless, my mind turning over everything I'd been holding inside. I wasn't surprised when I found Ethan there. He was leaning against the counter, arms crossed, a shadow in the dim kitchen light. His eyes lifted to mine, unreadable, and I froze in the doorway. "You're awake," I said, though it came out softer than I intended. "So are you," he replied. The silence that followed was alive. My pulse raced as I stepped forward, reaching for a glass, pretending his presence didn't unravel me. But when I turned to the sink, I felt him move behind me. Close. Too close. His voice brushed my ear. "Why do you keep running?" The glass trembled in my hand. "I'm not." "Yes, you are." His tone was low, steady, dangerous. "Every time I get close, you pull away. But you don't want to. Do you?" I gripped the counter, my knuckles white. "You don't know what I want." "Don't I?" I turned then, too fast, and found myself pressed against him. His body was solid, warm, towering over me. His hand braced the counter beside mine, trapping me. My breath caught as his eyes searched mine, dark and unflinching. "You don't understand," I whispered. His gaze flickered to my lips. "Then make me." The space between us was gone. His mouth brushed mine, tentative at first, as though testing. My chest exploded with heat, my hands curling into fists to keep from reaching for him. The kiss deepened, his hand sliding to my waist, pulling me flush against him. It was too much. I broke away, gasping, my palms flat against his chest. "Stop." But the word came out broken, torn between protest and desire. Because even as I said it, I didn't push him away. Not really. My fingers curled into his shirt, holding him there. His forehead pressed to mine, his breath ragged. "You don't want me to stop." I squeezed my eyes shut. "It's wrong." "Wrong doesn't feel like this," he whispered, his lips grazing my jaw, his grip tightening on my waist. My body betrayed me. Heat flooded every nerve, every inch of me screaming to give in. But my mind was chaos. My best friend was just feet away, asleep in the other room. If he woke up, if he saw. "I can't," I whispered again, more to myself than him. But when Ethan's lips claimed mine again, hungrier this time, my resistance shattered. The kiss was fire. Rough, desperate, nothing like the careful glances and almost touches we'd survived until now. His hand slid up my back, holding me like he'd been waiting years for this. My own hands betrayed me, clutching his shirt, pulling him closer. And then. A sound. The creak of the couch. My best friend shifting in his sleep. We froze. Every muscle in my body went rigid, my heart slamming against my ribs. Ethan's grip on me tightened before he finally released me, stepping back into the shadows. I turned, breathless, to see if my friend had stirred. He hadn't. His breathing was steady, oblivious. But the moment was ruined. The danger was too real now, pressing down like a weight. Ethan's eyes burned through me, his chest rising and falling fast. "This isn't over," he whispered. Then he slipped past me, disappearing into the hallway, leaving me shaking in the dark. I barely slept that night. My lips burned with the memory of his kiss, my body aching with one I tried to deny. But layered over it all was fear, of what we'd started, of what might happen if we couldn't stop. The next morning, I avoided him. At breakfast, I kept my eyes on my plate, my answers short. My best friend noticed nothing, but I could feel Ethan's gaze on me, steady and unrelenting. Every time I looked up, he was already watching. It was unbearable. I told myself it had been a mistake, that we could pretend it never happened. But deep down, I knew better. Because when his hand brushed mine again, deliberately, under the table, my pulse spiked, and I didn't pull away. Later that day, we were left alone again. My best friend had gone to work, leaving me and Ethan in the house. I tried to bury myself in a book, but the words blurred. When I looked up, Ethan was standing in the doorway, arms crossed, watching me. My breath caught. "What? You can't keep pretending," he said. "I'm not." "Yes, you are." His tone was firm, unyielding. You wanted it. Just as much as I did. I slammed the book shut, my voice trembling. Even if I did, we can't. He stepped closer, his shadow falling across me. We already did. My chest tightened, my resolve unraveling. I wanted to deny it, to push him away again, but when he knelt beside me, his hand brushing mine, I couldn't. My body leaned toward him before my mind could catch up. And in that moment, I knew the truth. We were past the point of no return. That night, lying awake in bed, I whispered into the dark. What are we doing? But I already knew. We were falling. And there was no stopping the crash that was coming. The kiss should have been enough. It should have terrified me into pulling away for good. But instead, it haunted me. I carried it in my chest like a live wire, sparking every time Ethan was near. And he was always near. The next few days blurred together, filled with stolen glances and restless nights. I tried to lose myself in routine, meals, conversations, the usual banter with my best friend, but nothing felt normal anymore. Because every time Ethan brushed past me, every time his gaze locked with mine across the room, I remembered. His lips. His hands. The way his voice had trembled when he whispered, "You don't want me to stop." And the truth? He was right. I didn't. But I had to. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. The tension broke again 3 nights later. We'd been watching a movie together, all 3 of us. My best friend fell asleep midway, sprawled out with a blanket, while Ethan and I sat stiffly on opposite ends of the couch. The flickering light from the TV cast shadows across his face, highlighting the sharp line of his jaw, the curve of his lips. I told myself not to look. Not to want. But when the screen flashed bright, I saw him watching me instead. Not casual. Not friendly. Hungry. My pulse spiked. I shifted, pretending to fix the blanket around my friend, but Ethan's gaze didn't waver. Minutes passed. My chest was tight. The room too quiet. And then, his hand moved. Slowly. Deliberately. Sliding across the couch cushion, inch by inch, until it brushed mine. I froze. I should have pulled away. I should have stood up. But I didn't. Our fingers tangled, hidden in the shadows. His grip was firm, claiming, as though daring me to deny him. My breath caught, my body betraying me with how badly I wanted to hold on. But the sound of my best friend stirring jolted me back to reality. I yanked my hand away as if burned, my heart hammering in my ears. Ethan didn't react. He just leaned back, his eyes fixed on me with a look that said this isn't over. The next day, he cornered me. I was in the backyard, pacing, trying to breathe, trying to shake the storm in my chest. And then he appeared, stepping out the back door, closing it quietly behind him. I stiffened. Don't what? His voice was calm, too calm. This. My hands trembled at my sides. You can't keep what? He stepped closer, his eyes burning. Wanting you? Touching you? Kissing you? I swallowed hard, my throat dry. You're making it worse. Worse? He scoffed, closing the distance until his chest almost brushed mine. Tell me to stop. Look me in the eye and say you don't feel it too. I tried. God, I tried. But the words wouldn't come. My mouth opened, then closed. My body screamed with the truth I couldn't say out loud. His hand rose, cupping the side of my face. My skin ignited under his touch. See, he whispered. You can't. And then he kissed me again. This time, I didn't fight it. I let him consume me, my hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. His lips were hot, urgent, his grip unrelenting. The kiss was a collision, messy and desperate, and I melted into it, forgetting everything except the way he made me feel. But then the sound of the back door opening snapped us apart. My best friend's voice called from inside, "Hey, you guys out there?" I stumbled back, breathless, my lips swollen, my chest heaving. Ethan's expression hardened, but his eyes stayed locked on mine as if daring me to move first. I should go, I stammered, and rushed past him, back into the house before the truth could unravel completely. That night, lying in bed, guilt ate at me. What was I doing? Betraying my best friend, risking everything for something I didn't even fully understand. But when I closed my eyes, all I could feel were Ethan's lips. His hands. His voice whispering against my skin. I was falling. Hard. And it terrified me. The following weekend, everything spiraled. We'd gone out together, me, my best friend, and Ethan. A small diner in town, just for food. But even in public, the tension crackled between us. Our knees brushed under the table. His gaze lingered too long. My chest ached with want, and fear, and something in between. When my best friend excused himself to the restroom, the silence between us was electric. Ethan leaned in, his voice low. I can't keep pretending. My breath caught. We have to. He shook his head. No. I want you. And I know you want me too. My heart pounded. Not here. Someone will see. Let them. His eyes burned, reckless, dangerous. I don't care anymore. I nearly broke right then, my resolve slipping through my fingers. But the sound of footsteps saved me. My best friend returned, oblivious, smiling as if nothing had changed. But everything had. That night, back at the house, Ethan found me again. He closed the door behind us, locking it. My pulse spiked. Ethan. No more excuses, he cut me off, his voice fierce. I'm done waiting for you to admit it. He crossed the room in 2 strides, grabbing me by the wrist, pulling me against him. His body pressed hard to mine, his breath hot on my neck. You wanted to stop me before, he whispered, his tone edged with hunger. But you couldn't. And you still can't. My chest heaved. Every inch of me burned with desire and fear. You're going to ruin everything. His lips brushed my ear. Maybe everything needs to be ruined. And then his mouth was on mine again, demanding, desperate, unstoppable. I didn't resist. I couldn't. Because in that moment, I wanted him more than I wanted to be safe. That night changed everything. We crossed lines we couldn't uncross. The danger became part of the thrill, each stolen touch pulling us deeper into a secret that could destroy us both. And as much as I told myself I'd stop tomorrow, I knew the truth. Tomorrow would never come. The more I tried to bury it, the more it consumed me. By day, I forced myself to act normal, laughing with my best friend, pretending everything was as it had always been. But by night, I replayed every kiss, every stolen moment with Ethan until I could hardly breathe. And Ethan wasn't making it easy. Every chance he got, he cornered me. A brush of his hand when no one was watching. A whisper too close to my ear. A stare that pinned me in place, daring me to admit what I already knew. He wanted more. And the truth was, so did I. One afternoon, it all nearly came crashing down. We were in the garage, supposed to be helping my best friend organize boxes. He'd gone upstairs to grab something, leaving Ethan and me alone. The silence was unbearable. Dust floated in the light streaming through the small window. My heart beat too fast. I focused on the boxes, tried to ignore the way Ethan was leaning against the wall, watching me. Why do you keep running? He asked suddenly, his voice low, heavy. I froze. Because this is wrong. Wrong? He stepped forward, closing the distance between us. Or just scary? I turned to face him, my chest heaving. Both. For a second, his expression softened. Then he reached out, fingers brushing my arm, sliding down to my wrist. The touch sent fire racing through me. You don't pull away when I touch you, he whispered. You lean closer. Before I could respond, he pulled me into him, pressing me against the workbench. His body trapped mine, his lips just inches away. Ethan, stop. But my voice broke, weak. Stop, he breathed, leaning in. Or don't. And then he kissed me. Hard. I gasped, hands gripping the edge of the bench, torn between pushing him away and pulling him closer. His mouth moved against mine with a hunger that left me dizzy. The sound of footsteps upstairs snapped reality back into place. I shoved him away, chest heaving, lips trembling. He's coming back. Ethan's jaw tightened, but his eyes stayed locked on mine, burning with frustration. One day, you're not going to run. One day, you'll admit what this is. My best friend's voice called down, found it. Be right there. I scrambled to fix my shirt, my hair, anything that betrayed what had just happened. Ethan just stood there, calm, like nothing had happened. But everything had. That night, guilt ate at me worse than ever. Every time my best friend laughed, every time he called me bro, I felt like a traitor. Like I was carrying a secret so heavy it would crush me if I didn't let it out. But I couldn't tell him. Because if I did, I'd lose him. And I wasn't ready for that. The next weekend, the breaking point came. We'd been drinking, just the 3 of us, music playing low in the background. My best friend eventually stumbled off to bed, leaving me and Ethan in the dimly lit living room. The silence stretched. The air thickened. And then Ethan spoke. I can't keep doing this. My chest tightened. Doing what? This, he gestured between us. Sneaking around. Pretending it's nothing. Pretending I don't want you every second I see you. I swallowed hard, shaking my head. We don't have a choice. Yes, we do. He leaned forward, eyes blazing. Choose me. The words hit me like a punch. I stared at him, torn in half. Ethan, I can't. Yes, you can. His hand found mine, gripping hard. You're scared, but you feel it. Don't lie. My chest heaved. My throat burned. And before I could stop myself, the truth spilled out. I do feel it. The confession left me raw, exposed. Ethan's face softened, a flicker of triumph in his eyes. Then stop fighting me. He leaned in, kissing me with a force that stole my breath. My hands tangled in his shirt, my body arching into his. The kiss was fire, uncontrollable, unstoppable. But then, a sound. The creak of the floorboard upstairs. We froze. Panic surged through me. I shoved Ethan away, my heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. If he sees us? Ethan's jaw clenched. Then he sees. Are you insane? My voice cracked, almost breaking into a shout. He grabbed my wrist, pulling me back to him. I'm done hiding. I yanked free, chest heaving, eyes stinging. Well, I'm not. For the first time, Ethan looked hurt. Really hurt. The silence between us was heavier than any kiss, any touch. And in that silence, I realized something terrifying. We weren't just playing with fire anymore. We were already burning. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything over and over. Ethan's lips. His words. The risk. The danger. I was falling for him, and I couldn't stop it. But if my best friend ever found out, it would destroy everything. And maybe, deep down, that's what scared me the most. Not the kissing. Not the touching. Not even Ethan's persistence. But the fact that I was starting to wonder if I'd risk it all anyway. Because every time Ethan held me, kissed me, touched me, it felt like I finally belonged. Even if it was wrong. Even if it could ruin us. The night it all came crashing down, the air felt different. Maybe it was the storm outside, thunder rolling low in the distance. Maybe it was the way Ethan wouldn't look away from me, even when my best friend was right there between us, oblivious. Or maybe it was just that we'd been balancing on the edge too long, and edges were meant to break. Either way, something was bound to happen. We'd been watching a movie. My best friend had fallen asleep halfway through, his head tipped back, soft snores filling the silence. Ethan sat on the other end of the couch, his arm draped casually along the backrest, his gaze flickering to me every few seconds. I tried to keep my eyes on the screen, but the heat of his stare was unbearable. Every inch of me was aware of him, of the way his fingers tapped restlessly, of the faint smirk tugging at his lips, like he knew a secret no one else could see. And he did. Our secret. The one eating me alive. When my best friend finally stirred and mumbled something about heading to bed, relief and panic twisted together in my chest. Relief because the danger of being caught was gone. Panic because now I was alone with Ethan again. The moment the bedroom door closed upstairs, Ethan shifted closer. Finally, he whispered. I tensed, staring at the darkened screen. Don't. But he ignored me. His hand slid across the couch, finding mine. His fingers laced through mine, warm and sure, holding tight even when I tried to pull away. Ethan, I warned. He leaned in, his voice low, hungry. I can't keep pretending I don't want you. My breath hitched. We said we'd stop. No, he corrected. You said that. I never agreed. And then his lips were on mine. The kiss was rough, desperate, years of restraint snapping all at once. My body betrayed me instantly. I kissed him back, my hand fisting his shirt, dragging him closer. The taste of him flooded my senses, dizzying, intoxicating. I wanted him. God, I wanted him. But when his hand slid down my back, pulling me into his lap, panic flared. I broke the kiss, breathless. Ethan, wait. He didn't let go. His forehead pressed to mine, his eyes dark and burning. Tell me you don't want this, and I'll stop. My chest heaved. My lips trembled. But I couldn't say it. Because it would be a lie. My silence was all the answer he needed. His mouth crashed into mine again, fiercer this time. His hands roamed my body, holding me like I belonged to him. And for a terrifying, thrilling moment, I let him. I let myself drown. The sound of footsteps upstairs shattered everything. We froze. My best friend was awake. I scrambled off Ethan's lap, my heart pounding so loud I thought it would give us away. We sat in silence, barely breathing, as the footsteps moved toward the bathroom, then paused. Ethan's hand found mine again, squeezing tight. His eyes never left mine, even as fear burned in my chest. The footsteps retreated. A door closed. Silence. I exhaled shakily, clutching Ethan's hand like it was the only thing keeping me upright. That was close, I whispered. He didn't flinch. Do you regret it? I hesitated. The right answer, the safe answer, was yes. To deny everything, push him away, bury it deep. But the truth clawed its way out anyway. No. The word hung between us, fragile and dangerous. Ethan's expression softened, something raw flickering in his eyes. He reached up, brushing a thumb across my cheek. Then don't run from me anymore. I should have said no. I should have walked away. Instead, I kissed him. The kiss deepened, our bodies pressed together, hands tangled in desperate need. The world outside blurred until nothing existed but him, his warmth, his taste, his heartbeat slamming against mine. For the first time, I stopped fighting it. For the first time, I let go. But even in that moment of surrender, fear lingered in the back of my mind. Because secrets like ours never stayed hidden forever. And one way or another, the night had already changed everything. I lay awake for hours after Ethan finally slipped away to his room. My lips still burned. My body still ached for him. But my head was chaos. I thought about my best friend asleep just upstairs. About what would happen if he knew. About how close we'd come tonight to being exposed. And yet, when I closed my eyes, all I could see was Ethan's face. The way he looked at me like I was the only thing in the world that mattered. The way he kissed me like he would never let me go. And I knew, with terrifying certainty, that I was in too deep. Because no matter how dangerous this was, no matter how wrong it felt, I didn't want to stop. Not anymore. The morning after should have felt like regret. It didn't. I woke to sunlight creeping through the blinds, my body heavy, my lips still sore from the night before. For a few blissful seconds, I let myself replay it, the heat of his mouth, the strength of his hands, the way he held me like he'd never let go. And then reality hit. I heard footsteps in the hallway. My best friend's voice calling out for breakfast. The sound made my chest collapse in on itself. I sat up too quickly, my head spinning, my heart pounding with guilt. Because last night wasn't just a kiss. It was a choice. And it changed everything. At the kitchen table, Ethan sat casually, sipping coffee like nothing had happened. My best friend moved around the stove, humming as he flipped eggs, completely oblivious. Meanwhile, I could barely breathe. Ethan's eyes found mine across the table. Steady. Unapologetic. He didn't look away, not even when my best friend turned to say something, his voice breaking the tension that only I seemed to notice. I forced a laugh at the right moment, pretended my hands weren't trembling under the table. But when Ethan's foot brushed against mine, slow and deliberate, I nearly dropped my fork. I glared at him, silently begging him to stop. He only smirked. The danger of it, the recklessness, made my pulse race. And it terrified me. Later, when my best friend left for work, Ethan cornered me in the hallway. "We need to talk," he said. "No, we don't." I shoved past him, but he caught my wrist, pulling me back. "Yes, we do." His eyes burned into mine. "Last night wasn't nothing." "I know." My voice cracked, betraying me. "Then stop acting like it doesn't matter." I swallowed hard, searching for words. "It matters too much. Don't you get it? If he finds out, then he finds out." His tone was sharp, unflinching. I stared at him, stunned. "You'd risk everything?" His jaw tightened. "I already am." The weight of his words crushed me. He wasn't just playing. He wasn't just teasing. He meant it. He wanted me, for real. And I didn't know if I was strong enough to admit I wanted him too. That night, it all spiraled further. The storm outside had worsened, rain lashing against the windows, thunder rattling the walls. My best friend had gone to bed early, exhausted from work. That left me and Ethan alone again, the silence between us unbearable. I tried to distract myself with a book, but the words blurred. My thoughts were loud, my body restless. When I looked up, Ethan was standing in the doorway. Watching me. "What?" I snapped, my voice shaking more than I wanted. "You're lying to yourself," he said. I closed the book too hard, the sound echoing in the room. "And what if I am?" "Then stop." He stepped closer. "Stop lying. Stop hiding." I stood, backing away as he approached. "You don't understand." "No, you don't understand." His voice rose, for the first time sharp with frustration. "I can't keep pretending I don't want you. I can't sit here and watch you act like we're nothing when we're everything." His words stole the air from my lungs. I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes. "It's not that simple." "It is." He grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at him. "You feel it. I see it every time you look at me. You want this as much as I do." I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. He leaned in, his lips inches from mine. "So stop running." And then he kissed me again. This time, I didn't resist. I kissed him back with everything I'd been holding in, pouring months of fear and longing into that one moment. My hands clung to him like I'd drown without him, my body trembling with the force of it. It was reckless. It was dangerous. It was undeniable. When we finally broke apart, our foreheads pressed together, my chest heaving, Ethan whispered, "I don't care who knows." The words hit me like thunder. But before I could answer, a sound froze us both. A creak on the stairs. My best friend's voice. "Hey, what's going on down here?" Panic ripped through me. I shoved Ethan back, my heart slamming against my ribs. He looked at me, hurt flashing across his face, but I couldn't focus. The footsteps grew closer. I wiped my mouth, my hands shaking, trying to erase the evidence of what we'd just done. Ethan straightened, his jaw tight, his eyes locked on me. My best friend appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. "You guys are still up? What's with all the noise?" Silence. I forced a laugh, my voice too high, too fake. Just talking. The storm's too loud. He yawned, nodding. Yeah, it's crazy out there. Ethan didn't say a word. He just stared at me, his expression unreadable. My best friend shuffled back upstairs, none the wiser. The second he was gone, Ethan turned on me. You can't keep doing this, he hissed. You can't kiss me like that and then act like I'm nothing the second someone walks in. Tears burned my eyes. What do you want me to do? Lose him? Lose everything? I want you to choose me. The words were a demand, a plea, and a confession all at once. My chest shattered. Because deep down, I knew I already had. But saying it out loud? Letting the world know? That was a risk I wasn't sure I could take. That night, I lay in bed wide awake, the storm raging outside. His words echoed in my head. I want you to choose me. And for the first time, I realized I couldn't keep avoiding it. Because no matter how much I denied it, no matter how much I tried to bury it, I already had. I'd chosen him the moment I stopped saying no. And now, there was no turning back. The storm passed by morning, but inside me, the chaos remained. I sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the quiet house, knowing everything had changed. Ethan's words from the night before refused to leave me. I want you to choose me. For hours, I turned it over in my mind. The fear of losing my best friend battled against the pull in my chest every time I thought of Ethan. It wasn't just desire anymore, it was something deeper, heavier. Something that demanded truth. When I finally found Ethan, he was by the window, looking like he was already preparing for goodbye. My heart ached at the thought of him walking away. I can't keep hiding, I whispered. My voice was unsteady, but real. Not from you. Not from myself. He turned, his eyes searching mine. Does that mean? It means I choose you, I said. The relief on his face broke me open. He crossed the room in 2 steps and pulled me into his arms, holding me like I was the only one in the world. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of being caught. Whatever happened next, whatever risks, whatever fallout, we would face it together. Because I realized something simple but unshakable. Hiding was killing me. Loving him was the only thing that made me feel alive. And in his arms, I finally let myself live. If this story left your heart racing, I want to hear from you. Drop one word in the comments that captures how you feel right now: exposed, alive, heartbroken, seen, addicted. Your stories matter too. Have you ever wanted something so badly but feared what it might cost? Share your truth below. Let's make the comments a place where secrets, confessions, and connections come alive. Don't just watch, be part of the story.